Happy Saturday and good afternoon to my awesome circle. I have a couple of things I want to discuss today as we are all experiencing the effects of a number of retrogrades. There's Mercury, there is Saturn, and there's Pluto. But we will start off, as we do regularly, with the numerology digit of the day, which is 5. 5 represents expansion. It represents the 5th chakra, or the throat chakra. That has to do with your voice. That has to do with speaking things into existence. It has to do with speaking what is in the unconscious or the subconscious, which represents the quantum field. And as you speak those things that are not as though they are, they move from the unconscious or the quantum field into our dimensional reality. So there's a lot of power in number 5 and the 5th chakra, or the throat chakra. It's about manifestation. It is about a certain level of creativity with your words, with an awareness that what you speak has the power of creation behind it. It is a representation of the infinite creative power of the universe, and it has a lot to do with transformation. So number 5, the 5th chakra, to me, I see it as a good example of the 5th chakra in action is like the Freudian slip, when someone says something that they didn't plan to say, but it does reflect their unconscious. It reflects something at play in the quantum field that needed to be birthed, that needed to become real. That is 5th chakra energy. It is the energy, as I said, of expansion, of experimentation, of creativity. It takes the structure, the foundation of what's already there, and it changes it into something new and different that we didn't expect, but beautiful and artful. Okay, so that is our numerology update of the day. Today I am going to speak about the gift of triggers. The gift of triggers. And right now, we are all experiencing a boatload of transition and transformation. More so, I think, than we've ever experienced in our lifetimes. Like right now, the transformation and transition is really, really at maximum hilt, if you will. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about what triggers are. I'm going to talk about some of your possible experiences with triggers lately, especially in the past 3 or 4 months during this heavy retrograde season. In any given year, there are several Mercury retrogrades. It only lasts 88 days. So there are several of them. The first Mercury retrograde was January 30th to February 20th. And what we have is a Pluto retrograde, a Saturn retrograde, and a Mercury retrograde. And I'm going to just briefly speak about what those retrogrades represent and what is entailed in them, but I'm not going to be able to go through specifically what's going on in your chart. That's something that you can research yourself or speak to someone who is expert at that. It is not something that I'm expert at, although I do remain up to date on those types of things and how they affect my life and the lives of those that I love. But basically, the Pluto retrograde started April 27th, and it will go all the way till October 6th. And Pluto governs the power, your personal power. It governs the taboo. It governs your shadow. It governs those things that we don't really want to talk about. Those things that we sweep under the rug, the things about ourselves. What's up, Mitchell? Good to see you, man. those things about ourselves that we really don't want to talk about or that we don't want to face. It is the unconscious, it is the subconscious, it is the taboo, it is our power. And so the Pluto retrograde is really going to be about interactions and even vivid dreams that reflect where you are letting your power leak. It governs triggers. It governs the things that are in your subconscious that kind of like leap out and jump out based on certain types of interactions you may have with people where you wind up saying something you didn't plan to say. Pluto retrograde is going to reflect maybe there are some traumas that you experienced as a youth, as a child, as a teenager, and there's some lessons that needed to be learned from those, and you are still needing to focus on that and look at that and let the bright light of day shine on it so that you can extract the wisdom from that experience. Good afternoon, Mitchell. And so the Pluto retrograde is putting you in situations unconsciously and when you are conscious of reviewing those things and being able to put those in the proper perspective. It is also fostering situations where you wind up getting triggered. And that's where the trigger is the gift. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But your personal power, which we spoke about probably 2 weeks ago as it relates to reclaiming your authority, is areas where you need to understand where your power is leaking, where you are giving your power away, where you're not really harnessing it and being able to use it and leverage it for the development and the abundance of your life and the trajectory, the auspicious timeline of your life. You're not using it correctly. And the Pluto retrograde is showing you where you need to fix that. The Saturn retrograde, which takes place from May 23rd to October 10th, has to do with the systems and structures on which our lives are built. Many of those systems and structures, we had nothing to do about those. We were born into those, but we're entering an era and an age where we are now creating our own structures. Saturn has to do with cause and effect and karma. And so it has to do also with your programming, how your mind has been programmed, how you understand your life vis-a-vis those systems and these structures that are the backdrop of your life, that are holding things up. And a lot of these have fallen by the wayside. A lot of these are coming down. And so we have this need and this requirement to understand that we're now in the process of building new structures that we are creating from how we develop what's going on in our minds, what we're focusing on, what we're mulling over, what we marinate in. That is how we're creating our future. That is how we're creating our life. The things that we're creating ourselves, those are replacing the structures that are falling away. And Saturn in retrograde right now is giving us all the opportunity to, in a self-aware and conscious manner, build our lives based on our own creative structures that we have been creatively putting together over the past several years. And so now those structures that we're building, those are the ones that are going to stand the test of time as those other structures go by the wayside. So this is really, really a time to figure out what is programming me. What are the programs running in my head that I've been living by? What do I need to reprogram? What is the program that I need to remove based on old structures and replace based on new structures? And you now, based on your own personal sovereignty, based on reclaiming your personal authority, which the Pluto retrograde is helping you with, and also we'll talk about the Mercury retrograde real quickly, how you now are perceiving your life, the new story you're telling yourself that you are getting help from in the Mercury retrograde. How are you now reprogramming yourself to understand that there are new systems and new structures that you and those around you that you hang out with, those around you that you consider part of your soul tribe, you are creating a new system and new structure, and now you have the opportunity to reprogram your mind so that what the world that you experience and the world that you see now reflects who you are on the inside. Okay, so that's Saturn retrograde, and you have all the way until October 10th to get that done. So the universe is very generous and has a lot of grace towards us, so that we can now begin to build a new life with new structures for ourselves. Mercury retrograde. This is the second. We're in the second Mercury retrograde right now, and that one started on May 29th, the day before my birthday, and it will go all the way till June 22nd. There will be a third retrograde in September, but right now we're just going to talk about the one we're in right now. So the current Mercury retrograde has to do with our perceptions, how we see things, how we perceive, and how the meaning that we attribute, the meaning that we ascribe to the events that take place in our lives. So what is a story that you are using to describe your life? How do you tell your autobiography? And how do you tell that vis-a-vis the events that are happening in your life, the major things and transformations and transitions that you're experiencing? What is your story? And to what extent, this is what the Mercury retrograde is doing for you right now, it is giving you an opportunity to change that story and make it your own story, as opposed to a story that your parents told you, your grandparents told you, or books told you, or urban legend told you, or myths told you. What is your story from your own words and from your own heart and from your own mind, which hopefully are in congruence? What is the story of your life? And based on the extent to which you change that story and update it, you want it to reflect those new systems and new structures that you're creating. You want it to reflect your new understanding of your personal authority and the power that you exhibit and the power that you wield in the world as it relates to the things that you have control over. Your new story is one now that no one is dictating to you. And so you have the opportunity to recast yourself in a new role. We are in such transition, in such transformation right now, that you now can take on a new role. You can put on a new mask. You can put on a completely new costume. And you can be something different. It is your life. It is your story. And you can recast that storyline based on what you want the new timeline to be in your life. Okay? So that is kind of an idea of what we're contending with as far as the retrogrades are concerned, and those transitions and transformations that we're experiencing right now. With all the transformation, people, and all the transition, there is an end of cycles. And I know we've all experienced it. We're experiencing it right now. There are some main relationships, some jobs, some associations with groups that are now ending. For some of us, it's really scary. We don't know what happens next. It's like, okay, what is happening now? What is my life without this person? What is my life without this institution? What is my life without this job I've had forever? And now it's a very exciting time for you to reimagine your life, because there are some major endings that have taken place already in your life. I don't care who you are, you're experiencing it. I've experienced it. Okay. And what I want to talk about is the degree to which those triggers might have contributed to some of the ends of cycles that you're experiencing. So we're at this crossroads right now. If you could imagine metaphysically, you just got off one train that you were on for 20 years, and you just got off that train, and you're waiting for the next train to come. And that next train is going to take you to this new timeline that you didn't realize that you were going to be going to. But this new timeline, these new auspicious timelines that are now coming up for you, are based on the accumulation of your thoughts and your emotions and your desires and your intentions and the purpose that you have for your life. All of those inner life experiences and desires are now what is fueling your new life, your new transition, this transformation, and this new timeline that you're going to get on. Okay, and you're going to places that you didn't imagine you would be going to, and that's happening to everybody. We're at a crossroads. We're at a juncture where we're about to switch trains. We're about to get on another plane. You know, we're switching planes, and we're moving. We're launching into a different stratosphere of life, and many of you are afraid of the unknown, and I understand that. Many of you are afraid because you don't know what it's going to look like. You don't know if you're going to make it. Some of the friends that have been with you for umpteen years, they're no longer there. They're falling away. And the catalyst that have caused some of them to fall away is probably maybe a trigger. Maybe you got triggered. Maybe you said something that you didn't plan to say. Maybe there was an exchange of words going back and forth, and there's something in your shadow that you've been resisting and putting off, and there's something that was irritating you, or something you've been putting it off, and the person said something that triggered you. Now, your trigger and what you actually said probably has nothing to do with what that person said or did, because what they did or said is reminiscent of some past trauma that you experienced, that you associated with their demeanor, how they said it, what the words were. But in itself, that trigger has nothing to do with them, and that's what triggers are. Triggers are really just based on past traumas that we are associating with a current event, a current situation where words are exchanged, an emotion is felt, an event is happening, and it reminds us, it's reminiscent of a past trauma. And oftentimes it is those triggers that pop out when we least expect it that causes there to be an end in the cycle. But for that trigger, you would still be stuck in that old role. You'd still be stuck in that old perspective. You'd still be looked at in that old way, because you did not take the time to address that shadow part of you, to address that trauma or help that trauma heal. It had to emerge. It had to just pop out for the purpose of your soul's growth. And while it's happening, it's like, oh my God, I can't believe I said that. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I don't know where that came from. But that is a result of your not dealing with it. That is a result of your not getting in therapy. That is a result of your, glossing over it, sweeping it under the rug, And it is ultimately a benefit. It is a gift from the universe that trigger happened as a catalyst for your soul growth. So what I want to talk about right now is when those things do happen, okay? So you get triggered. We all get triggered. I don't care where we are on the evolutionary scale, the scale of being awakened. I don't know doesn't matter how long you've been awakened. You are still subject to being triggered. We are infinite in how long we've been around, how long we're going to be around. We are bottomless in terms of lifetimes of trauma and shadow that we carry with us. And so no matter how much you work on things, there is always going to be something that's going to pop up. There's something that is going to emerge that's going to show you a part of yourself that you didn't see before. And that's exciting. But the understanding that that's an ongoing process of lifetimes is something that you can rest assured about, and not think that at some point you're going to reach a point where you will have awakened and you won't have to do shadow work, and you won't have to cultivate a deeper understanding of yourself. You will always have to do that because you can go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. There is no end to the depth as a human being, as a being of light, that you can go down and reach and become more and more of that archetype, that blueprint of who the divine creator created you to be, that he cast you to be, that both of them, he and she, cast you to be, because there's certainly no gender in the spirit. So here's a scenario, okay? Here's a scenario. Let's say that you are with your significant other. Let's say maybe it's a parent or a sibling, a really close friend, and there's some words exchanged, okay? And they say something, you say something, they say something, you say something, they say something, and then before you know it, you say something that levels them. It slices them to bits. It's like an explosion goes off. It's like you shoot them, figuratively. And when you do this thing, they're like a deer in the headlights. They're like, they can't believe you said that. They don't know where that came from. They're looking at you in disbelief. They may be crying. And you're thinking, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. Okay. That is a typical scenario of the anatomy of a trigger, the anatomy of a triggered reaction, or what might be described as a trauma response. But to be honest with you, I don't really like the term trauma response, because a trigger, by definition, is not a response. It's a reaction. It's something that you do or say based on being triggered. So it wasn't a strategic response. It wasn't something that you thought about and reflected on and decided to respond in this particular unique, precise way. Based on something that would have been an appropriate response. That is how we want to respond as enlightened beings, as people that are awakened. We want to always be self-aware and conscious to the point where our responses reflect our level of growth, our level of love, our level of wisdom, our level of care. But a trigger is a reaction that we didn't anticipate, that we didn't know was there, and certainly that person that would receive the brunt of that certainly didn't see it coming. So I don't like to say it's a trauma response. It's a reaction based on past trauma. So I like to say it's a triggered reaction. But anyway, so you were in this situation like I described, and it came out, pop, you said it, all right? Now, what do we normally do when we get triggered? Okay, so oftentimes we say to ourselves, well, if you hadn't said that, I wouldn't have said that, or if you hadn't done that, I wouldn't have done that. You basically deserved it. That's kind of what we do, and we kind of reassign or redirect blame to that person for provoking us, right? That is a way of looking at it from a less enlightened place. That is a way of looking at it from a place that is less accountable and less responsible. It is looking at it from a place in which you have not understood your sovereignty and the fact that you are a divine creator based on the ultimate creator. And so that anything that comes out of you is based on what has been building up inside you. So what you utter is based on what's been in your heart and what's overflowing. So even though you did not expect that trigger and did not expect that reaction, that stuff that came out didn't just come out of nowhere. It came from a place inside you that was unaddressed. It came from a trauma experience that was not addressed, that was not healed. And so even though you experienced trauma in your past, whether it's as a child, as a teenager, in your 20s, and it most likely was not your fault, it is, and I'm sure you've heard this before, if you've been in these circles of light, if you will, that it is still your responsibility to heal that trauma, your responsibility to get whatever help, whatever therapy is necessary for you to put that trauma in the correct perspective, so that it becomes something that you begin to view from a distance. You begin to see that trauma from a distance, the distance between who you are right now, that evolved being that you are right now, and the person that you were when you first experienced it. Many times and often, that person you were when you experienced that was a child, even a toddler. But that 8-year-old, that 11-year-old, compared to who you are right now in your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, that vast difference gives you a perspective of wisdom. You now can see it as if it didn't just happen yesterday. Now you see it over the course of a seasoned life of evolution, where you now can put the pieces together and see the bigger picture of how that traumatic experience has afforded you a certain level of wisdom about your life and the meaning and purpose of your life, and even the legacy and that you want to leave. So the trigger is an opportunity, another opportunity for you to see that traumatic experience, that event in another perspective, so that it's no longer something that is going to be a trigger for you, is no longer something that is the source of pain, the source of suffering, the source of a wound that's still open, that's still bleeding, that still, needs to be triaged and healed. Now you see it from this perspective where you've been healed, and you no longer are going to have this triggered reaction, or this what they call traumatic response. Okay? So the universe is allowing you to be in a situation where you can heal areas that you have not yet healed. So that's what happens with triggers. So now you're in this situation, going back to our scenario, where you have had a triggered reaction, and now that person is shocked, they're hurt, they're devastated. Oftentimes, it may be the straw that breaks the camel's back and causes that person to step away from you and to want to be out of your life, or to walk away, to just be in disbelief. And so what is your reaction to that? What is your response to that? Well, a couple of different things that you can do. You can, after reflection, circle back and say, hey, I just want to let you know what happened yesterday. I don't know where that came from. I'm so sorry. I don't know why I said that. I'm going to do better next time. Or your response might be, hey, I just wanted to get back to you about our altercation yesterday. That kind of got out of control. I take full responsibility for that. I am bigger than that. I can't believe I said that. I didn't really mean all of those things. I'm really sorry. Okay? And a host of responses that you can engage in, circling back with this person that you have a lot of shared experiences, a lot of love. Again, whether it be a significant other, a sibling, a parent, a close friend. Those are the type of responses that I would expect from someone who is growing, who is self-aware, right? And who is truly looking to become a better person, right? And so now that's what you do, right? What about that other person? How are they going to respond? Okay, so there have been several different responses in my life and in some of the lives of the people that I coach, my coaching clients. One situation that is happening a lot these days and a lot within the past 3 months, the response is, forget it. No, I don't forgive you. No, you said what you meant. No, that I can't come back from that. There's no way for me to come back from that. It's over. Yeah, so I'm never talking to you again. So that response is happening a lot, which is the catalyst for many of the cycle endings, the cyclical endings to major relationships, with people, institutions. When we get triggered and their response is unforgiveness, their response is, okay, that's all I can take from you. It feels devastating. It feels, oh man, I messed up now. But we have to begin to realize that there's a certain mantra that you should already be using in your meditation, your affirmations, and that is, everything is always working out for me. All things work out for me. Things are always working out for my good, no matter what it is. If it looks bad, good, or otherwise, it is working out for my good. And so that trigger, it is a catalyst. If that person has made the decision that they cannot hold space for you, that they can't forgive you, that they don't have the capacity to do it for whatever reason, you have to allow that to happen. Because oftentimes, right, especially if you had the self-awareness to apologize and to circle back and say, hey, I thought about what I said, and you know what? I don't think that was appropriate. If you are the type of person who can do that, typically you're also the type of person who would forgive somebody else if they had a triggered response to you, right? If someone else said something to you in an outburst and it was, you thought it was inappropriate or hurt your feelings. And they circled back later on that day or the next day or maybe the next week, and they said, hey, I want you to know that last conversation we had, I blew up, and I want you to know there's some personal things going on in my life. There's something I'm going through. There's some realizations I'm coming to in my life, and I'm going through some things, and I just want you to know that your friendship or our relationship or our fellowship is important to me, and I wanted to circle back and apologize about that, and I'm just hoping that you could hold space for me and forgive me for that. If you're the type of person who would definitely hold space for that other person, someone with whom you are growing together, you both are helping each other out, you both are encouraging and supporting each other, then that means that the person who is not accepting your apology, the person who has decided that this is the straw that broke the camel's back, the person who has decided to walk away, then you have to understand that this is not the time for you to chase them. This is not the time for you to, come up with more explanations. It's not the time for you to be like, hey, like I said, I'm sorry, can't you forgive me? No. They've made their decision, and you must honor that. You honor their decision because their decision is their decision to make. We have to focus on controlling the controllables. The only thing that you can control is your response and what you decide you're going to do in the future and how you're going to think about that and the emotions that you associate with your thoughts. That's the only thing you have control of. You don't have control over someone else's decisions. You don't have control over what they say or what they're going to do. So allow them to have their own personal authority and their own sovereignty to make the decision to step away from you, because that is a gift. I don't know how disguised it is, but is a gift for you to begin to, number one, surround yourself with people that have the capacity and the ability to hold space for you as you are able to hold space for others when they fall short, where they're not the person that they ultimately would like to be. We all fall short. We all fall down. We all have a lapse where we find ourselves asleep at the wheel, where, metaphorically, we're driving, it's dark, we're sleepy, and we should have really pulled to the side of the road or gotten a hotel or something and spent the night somewhere, but we continued to drive anyway, and then we veered to the side of the road and boop, 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 it woke us up. Okay, so that triggers the thing that woke you up. You're like, oh my God, I fell asleep, I was unconscious. When you get triggered, it's because you were unconscious. Because you did not have the foresight to see what was coming. You did not have any idea that what that person said was going to trigger you, because you had not done enough work to be fully in clarity about yourself. You did not really spend enough time understanding your own self and the things that you are going through right now and how that's going to inform your life. So it's very important right now, as we're experiencing these cyclical endings, for us to accept the flow, accept where it's taking us, knowing in full faith that we're going to wind up somewhere where we need to be. Okay? Do not fight people. Now notice I'm wearing these fatigues. I'm wearing this fatigue type for a purpose, because there's a lot of inner conflict that's happening. And we may think we're fighting with others, okay? We think we're wrestling and fighting and in combat with others, with external situations, people, events, but we're really combating in this inner battle with self. We're in the process of reconciling many of the inner conflicts that are a result of past trauma that have not been worked out. And this is a time of transition and transformation. And these retrogrades are a gift, because they are shining a light on areas in our lives that have been blind spots. They are using people, our dreams, events to show us ourselves, to show us aspects of ourselves that we've not healed, that have not maybe had the opportunity to heal. And as such, you will be put in situations where you will be forced to heal, where you'll be forced to look at this situation that you have not addressed. So that trigger, whether it came from you or from someone else, is a catalyst that is going to launch you further into your soul's growth. It's going to give you what you need to grow and expand and be more and more of that archetype, that blueprint of who God created you to be. So go ahead and really embrace what's coming. Go through it. Some of you have some challenges and difficulties right now that you're going through, and you need to see that not as some sort of unnecessary hardship or some suffering or difficulty that doesn't have meaning. It's time for you to see that as a rite of passage, that as you go through it, it's building you and giving you what you need. It's equipping you with the features in the new power that you need to be able to exist and thrive in this new reality that is just on the other side, or just at the end of this tunnel, this wormhole to a new reality that you have to undergo. It's a gift. So I say to all of you, as you go through these major transitions and these major transformations, in faith, go through it. Know that on the other side, there is a better you, a bigger you, a more expanded you, a more evolved you, even more spiritual you that will emerge from this. Okay? It's time to fight. But the fight is really not with anybody else. That's shadow boxing. You are really reconciling and addressing inner conflict. Okay? There's really nobody else here. It's just you. It's just you. So triggers have a bad rap. Triggers have a bad rap. Okay? So embrace these changes. Embrace what's happening. And get ready for something much bigger and much more exciting than you ever experienced. So moving forward, and this is how I'm going to end, you want to continue to foster a much deeper understanding, cultivate a much deeper understanding and knowledge of yourself. If you don't yet have a daily practice of meditation and prayer or journaling, it is high time that you begin now, because this is what's going to catapult you into this next part of your life that's waiting for you. But you got to go through. Stop avoiding all the difficulties. Stop avoiding and resisting the challenges. As soon as you get through that, what do they call it? I can't think of the word you use, but as soon as you walk that gauntlet is the word I'm thinking about, and you go ahead and face your fears. When you get to the end of that, you're going to be ready for this next thing that's been waiting for you. But you cannot experience this next part of your life until you face your fears and go through this gauntlet. But it's going to be worth it, okay? Go through. Go through. That's all I have for you all today. I hope you got something out of it. It was really, really heavy on me to talk about the gift of triggers. And if you need to replay this and listen to it again, go for it. For those of you who have not read my book, Detox Your Circle, Activate Your Destiny, you can find it on Amazon. I do also have it in the profile for my dream_coach account. You can find it there. Basically, it is bit.ly/detoxbook with a capital D and a capital B. You can get it in ebook form for only $3.99. You can get it in soft back for $14.99, and get the hardcover for, I believe it is $30. So it is there for you. I get really, really excellent reviews, and people really seem to get a lot out of that book. There's also a course that I've created on Thinkific. You can look it up. You can put my name in there, or you can type in Detox Your Circle, and you will see this course that I've created based on the concepts from my book. You can also look in this profile from this account, and you can click on the link that will take you to that course. And last but not least, I'm here every Saturday sharing with you what's on my heart and what I'm learning as soon as I learn it. And I certainly don't profess to be any type of guru or someone who knows more than you know. I've just been tasked and charged by the universe to share what I'm learning in a vulnerable way, so that as you see what I'm going through and you see what I'm learning, you might be able to look at that and apply it to your life. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for stopping by. And I'm hoping you have a wonderful, wonderful Saturday. Take care. Bye-bye.